everyone. Welcome back to the Firewood Addicts podcast series. We got a new interview for you. Introducing our new friend Joshua. Joshua, say hi.
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing?
Joshua is of a YouTube channel called Glowing Firewood. Correct, Joshua?
That is correct.
Rock and roll. Make sure to check out his channel. I'll leave a link below, and we'll do a plug at the very end as well. All right, let's get into the interview. Joshua, what is your background?
So I think it was like in 2009, we used to have a fireplace until our fireplace burnt down. So I was kind of doing firewood at that time, but then later, I think when I was like 16, we started doing landscaping. Firewood was overtime, so after 4 o'clock, I would split till you couldn't see no more, and that's pretty much when I started getting the gig of doing firewood.
So then, was it at a young age then that you created, or the work ethic evolved into becoming addicted or obsessed with firewood?
Yeah, it was just pretty much after it was the option of overtime. So I started enjoying it more and more, and I'm like, hey, this is fun. So I would just do it just to do it. And I didn't care about overtime. It's just fun. So,
Right on. And so, what do you currently do?
still help with landscaping. I'm also doing cashiering at the same time. And then, of course, firewood whenever I can.
So firewood's not your full-time gig, but you is like a side hustle.
Yeah, it's a side hustle. I'm trying to get it more, but it's not been yet. There's not enough money coming in that it's worth it.
I hear you. It's nice having that side income, and there's a lot of work, but to grow it to the point where it's your full-time um, income is a challenge, but it would be a goal for a lot of us to grow the business to have that be at that scale. Right on, cool. I like it. I like it. Sure. So in your side hustle, when you're selling firewood, are you selling bundles? Are you selling like like a the face cord or so, or cords, or what do you sell? How you
So
sell?
I sell them in full cords. I also sell half cords and face cords. Most of the time, what I sell is either the full cord or face cords. I'm not really selling half cords. Then I also do bundles, kindling, and then I have like little shelves for my roadside stand. They're like 20 bucks. And then I have my odd and ends, like your cookies and whatnot. I throw them in a giant crate and it's like 20 bucks for it all just to get it out of there.
Gotcha. What is your biggest seller over there?
Surprisingly, it's like a lot of face cords and stuff. Not a lot of people like do like heating. It's just like really for like a ambiance, the show. Oh, a little fireplace here when they have guests. A couple people do buy full cords. I've had a couple customers be like 4 or 5 cords of wood, but it's rare to have those customers call in for those.
Interesting. Okay, gotcha. And so, can you remind the viewers where are you calling in from?
I am coming in from South Jersey.
Jersey. Gotcha. Gotcha. It's nice to know. Thank you for sharing. It's nice to know your customer base and what they're using the wood for, and kind of cater what you're selling, how you're selling to your customers. But do you get anyone who's that is burning for heat too over there?
I mean, I get some people, like there's a lot of people, like I know on our road, it's like almost everybody switched to natural gas. So it's like that's what it seems like in our area. A lot of people are switching to natural gas. And then some people are switching from like coal to fireplace or whatnot. But it seems like a lot of people are switching to natural gas.
Interesting that you still bring coal in that area. Um, is it, do you find because people aren't heating with wood from your customer base, that you can demand a higher price for your firewood?
I mean, I could. I mean, there's like a couple other people that do firewood around me, but it's still like they say the more trees there are, the less you got to charge because there's so many trees, everybody can get it. The less trees, the more money you can charge. So it's not terrible priced, but I do charge on a higher end, I think, but I get customers. So
Gotcha. I've watched a few of your episodes, and it sounds like you take pride in your firewood side hustle, and your firewood looks to be top quality, where you know that um good quality wood goes here and lesser quality wood goes there, and you price accordingly. Um, Whereas like other people may sell whatever comes in the round and goes into a stack, and I don't care what it is, I'm going to sell it. Due to your eye for quality firewood, again, do you think that that adds to you your ability to demand a higher price as well?
And I believe the looks of the wood makes it a whole lot of difference. Like if it looks all knotty and whatnot, people think that we're giving them terrible wood. But if we give them nice, clean, smooth wood, then they're like, oh, we're getting a deal on it. So I think it actually does help.
I agree with you, buddy. I agree with you. Um, Now, because you know your area and your customer base, what um is one third of a cord going for in your area?
$100 to 130, somewhere around there.
And are you, when you sell, are you in that middle area? Are you on the higher end, or where are you on the spectrum?
From my competitors, I think I'm like a little on the low end. I probably could go a little higher, but it's if I go the price I'm at right now, I'm not getting crazy customers, but I'm getting just enough where it's like it's perfect. It doesn't stress me out.
I think you bring up a good point where the stress of keeping up with the demand and making sure that you have inventory, because if you have a high demand and you're selling a crap ton of wood each day or every day you're going out of load, then your season inventory just keeps going down. Obviously, wood takes a long time to season, and if you're just pumping out wood as a one man show or a small side hustle, and now you only have semi season or like fully green wood, then you're out, right? So to have a price where it's competitive, but it's not so cheap where people are not wanting your firewood um every day, right?
Yeah.
Gotcha, gotcha. That makes sense. I feel the same. Sorry, I have my coffee. Mm. Woo, nectar of the gods. Um, awesome. I like it. What share with us, in your opinion, what is the best type of wood to burn in your area and why? And then on the other end, what is the worst type of wood to burn in your area and why?
Well, my favorite type that I like burning is like American white cedar or pine. I just like the smell, or you can always go with cherry. I like the smell and how long it burns. And it just smells good. Like you sit put it by a campfire and it just you can smell it and people are like, what's you putting that fire? You can just smell it. I'm not sure if I'm getting the name right, but the worst one that would burn in our area is swamp maple. Takes forever to dry and it's just annoying. It's like pretty much like a sponge. When you cut down the tree, it's literally a sponge. So it's just annoying to work with. I hate it.
Swamp maple. I don't think I've heard that. Sounds like it would, maybe it would be like a cousin, or it's the same thing as cottonwood. Takes ever for dry and just super wet. Is it a Does it smell bad when you burn it?
No, it doesn't really have a smell either when you cut it. It's a white drown. It's just swamp
Hmm.
maple. Not sure really how to
Interesting.
explain what it is.
I'll look that up after the interview. But if anyone's watching has experience with swamp maple, let me know down in the comments. Interesting. Now, okay. Okay, so you mentioned both cedar and cherry. Would you burn those at the same time, or would you use the cedar to get the fire going and then add the cherry?
Yes, that's I usually use the cedar or something to get the fire going, and then if I have the cherry, I'll burn it. But I get mixed loads of firewood, so sometimes I get cherry, sometimes I get pine. I can't really control. I mean, I could, but I just get mixed loads, and if I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't.
So the two things that I want to follow up on that you touched on just now. One thing is pine. Are you okay with burning and selling pine?
I don't sell pine because it's just I don't have the space to dry it. So if I get a couple logs here and there, I'll let it dry. I burn it for my own personal burning, or like if our church has campfires or whatnot, I'll use it to get rid of it. But I don't really sell it because a lot of people, I just don't want people cooking over it because you're not supposed to cook over pine. And I don't know what they're burning with the wood and trying to cook over it because some people use it for camps and whatnot. So I just don't do it because I don't want them putting cooking over it.
Interesting. Okay, because I think there's a lot of people who don't like pine. It's like either the creosote or the sap is gonna pop at them or whatever. Whatever reason they don't like pine. And there's people who are like, pine is fine. This is ridiculous. All these myths, and they will burn it outside, inside, long as it's seasoned. You're good to go. But interesting that you stay away from it. Now, I guess a third thing, if I with that, Joshua, when you're selling wood, are you telling your customers what wood is what, and what is good for, or do they not ask? Do they not care? Or where are you in terms of being transparent with the customers of what wood they're getting?
I mean, like I've had a couple people like ask if they could have like just certain species, and I just tell them if I can get like a couple times I would get loads of cherry, I could set it aside and try to get a half a cord or get as much as I can. But most of the time, I just get white oak or oak. That's mainly what I'm getting in my area, unless I wanted to get pine, but I don't have the room to dry it. I could get tons of it if I wanted to, but I don't have the room.
I hear you're saying, I mean, I think that oak would definitely demand of more of a dollar, um, at a premium rate than pine, whereas pine would take up more real estate in your yard, where and then oak would obviously take longer to dry. I do hear you're saying, and your yard is big enough, but obviously you don't want to take on too much wood where you don't have to drop the oak and then to stack it and then dry it. Interesting, interesting. Um, Here, like I got a load, like a little, I don't know, like few sticks of cherry in my area, and I don't think the cherry wood here, I don't think it fruits, or at least on this side of the mountains, in my state, it's like more of a flowering cherry, and I'm not a tree expert by any means. But the cherry wood in your area, is it from a cherry tree that actually produces cherries?
I'm not sure. The couple cherry trees that we have in our property, they maybe produce like a little seed thing, but I don't think they ever actually get to an actual cherry that I know of. I mean, squirrels always eat them, so I'm not sure.
Gotcha. I'm just curious. I wish I, I mean, I saw firewood, but I wish I knew more about tree species, specifically in my area. I don't know. We'll learn together. I had another question. Oh yeah. You mentioned dropping. So are you in with like your with lands with your landscaping work um or whatnot? Do you get wood from your customers, or are you going on marketplace to get free wood, or are you getting tree service wood dropped at your place?
It's a mix. If I can find marketplace wood that's a good small distance, I'm not traveling super far, and they want to give it away. A lot of places, people they pay for the tree job, and then they want to try to get their money back by selling the logs. I'm like, I'm not. Nobody can make money off of that. So a lot of times, I do avoid Facebook Marketplace. I have 5 or 6 tree service people that just hit me up. Hey, I got a load. That sometimes they drop it off. Sometimes I'll swing by and just pick up. Like a couple days ago, literally the whole day just going back and forth. loading his truck, my truck, his truck, my truck. If we as much free wood as I can get, I'm like I'll take it all because it works for them. Some of them have to, some of them just mound it on their property because they have nowhere to put it. Some of them literally pay for it to be put in the landfill because they have nowhere to put it. So they're like it takes it off their hands.
It's a win-win for sure, and it's good to be friendly with one or more arborists or tree service folk where to have a lot where they can back in or turn around flat, where they can dump their load on your property for free or whatever, and then keep going on their work. That's nice to have. I am friendly with the maybe one or two um, local companies here, but I wish I had more access. And to your point where you said, Joshua, of using marketplace, but only going a short distance. I'm not driving too far away from where you're at to get free wood. It's not almost not worth the drive because your
Yes.
time is valuable, right?
Yeah, and sometimes it's still in logs, and for insurance purposes, I'm not just going to sit there cutting on their property because if I get hurt or something, so it has to be in rounds so I can just pick them up and throw them into the trailer. But a lot of times they just want to charge, like it would be maybe 2 cords, and I've seen some of them they want like $200 for. I'm like, what? Because they're just trying to get as much money back from the tree service.
You confirmed my theory without asking the homeowners of they pay for a tree service company to come out and to drop their tree, and obviously the more work the tree service has to do, more they're going to charge. So
Yes.
thank you. Yeah, I agree. So the homeowner wants to recoup some of their cost to from the tree service by selling the rounds or the logs, but not everyone has a trailer or a lift or a grapple to take logs from their property onto a trailer, onto a truck, right? Most people are going to want to bucket up or to take rounds in their truck or in their trailer, whatever. Um, but not everyone's gonna buy the wood. I mean, hardly anyone. I mean, I've I've gone the route of a person wanted, I think it was $200 or $500 for several cores of maple in my area, and I offer them nothing. And they're like, if you can get all the wood out in several days, you can have it for free. And I did it. I have one episode on it that I did a few years ago before the YouTube got started to grow. But I got all the wood out of his property, but I ended up giving him a half gallon of whiskey as a thank you.
Hmm.
And I had that wood for a long time because it was premium maple wood true service, and it was cut more or less at a 16. But it's funny that people think that the wood on their property is worth X amount of money, and not. I mean, yes, you may have buyers, but you may get sit on it for several weeks because not everyone's going to buy it. Um, but free is also ideal. But you mentioned something, not willing to use a chainsaw on someone's property. Uh, can you talk more about that?
It was just something like me and my mom talked about. We just don't want, because if we get into problems, like we just don't want them coming back at us, or like if we cause damage to their property or something, we don't want them coming back at us. Now we got to go fix their property. So if we can just pick it up, throw it in the trailer, the less potential damage, the better.
I think you bring up a good point that a lot of us need to think about or to confirm how we go about collecting firewood from different locations. I when I go on someone's property to get firewood, definitely there's a verbal understanding that, and I ask, "Are you okay with me being here? Or we're gonna park my truck? We're gonna park my trailer, type thing." And then if I'm gonna use a wheelbarrow or a hand truck, they know they'll be walking on their grass, on their driveway, whatever. Obviously, I'm gonna be careful, right? And then so if there's gonna be damage to their grass or rust, whatever, they're gonna be okay with that. Like that one story about the maple that I mentioned, I literally it was during the like fall, so it was wet and the grass was soaked. I I brought old plywood with me so I could walk on the plywood on top of their grass, so I wasn't ruining their grass, and I could use my hand truck and wheelbarrow more quickly, not be in mud. But there are times that the rounds are too big that I need to noodle on on site. So I ensure before I even get there that they're okay with me using a chainsaw. And then I get there, I confirm again that it's okay for me to use a chainsaw, and I'll be the only one using the chainsaw and have my PPE on me most of the times when I remember to bring it. Um, and so far so good, but you're taking it one step forward and saying, I'm not going to even go that route. And I respect that. I think a lot of people are sue happy, and you want to make sure that you yourself are protected and the place that has the wood is protected as well. Um, Interesting. I respect that stance. That makes sense. But but does that limit? I mean, obviously, like you're getting a bunch of wood from tree services, right? But does that, if you want to go on site for a specific species of wood, does that limit what you're able to have access to?
I don't think so. I haven't had a problem with still being able to get firewood, so I don't think it has a problem.
Gotcha, man. Interesting. Well, I thank you for being respectful of other people's property, as well as make sure that you um, are safe as well as you are collecting wood. So I think that a lot of people should hear that stance and take that into consideration. Um, Great. All right, cool. You mentioned base chord um, as a term used for a third of a chord. Is there any terminology used in your area or region that people would call one third of a chord?
Not that I know of. A lot of people just call it third of a cord. A lot of customers I deliver to, when I deliver a full cord, they don't even expect it that big. So I think they just think of a third of a cord as just a normal cord or something, because that's what my customers are coming to like, that's so much wood. I'm like, yeah.
Do you when you're advertising, are you using Marketplace or OfferUp or the word of mouth or Craigslist, or what are you using?
I used to use Facebook Marketplace, but for some reason I got banned or something. I'm not sure. I can't access it at the moment. So it's just pretty much, if you, I'm first on Google, if you look me up on Google, if you're close, and it's pretty much word of mouth, and business is going steady, so I'm not complaining about it.
Word of mouth and business is steady. That's a good feeling that people are saying this guy has good quality firewood. Call him and he will deliver. Cool, man. Good for you. Good for you. Now, because I ask in terms of advertising, if you're using like a platform like OfferUp or Craigslist or Marketplace, you would have images or pictures or videos of your wood. And if people are surprised at how much volume of wood that you're delivering, as opposed to having an image, like they would know like your trailer, like this is one third of a cord or one full cord, so they're not surprised about what they're getting. Um, I guess I mean to text them or something like that, so they're more aware. But how are you educating your customers about wood or firewood, or what type of questions do you get from your customers? I'm curious.
Um, a lot of questions is pretty much they ask what is like how much is a cord of wood. A lot of customers ask like you have base cord racks you get off Amazon or whatnot. You have two of them, and they're like, "Can a full cord fit in here?" No, I you need one more. I get that all the time too. They're like, "Here, put one here, one face cord here, one face cord here." I'm like, "What do you want me to do?" And they're like, "There's another one." I'm like, So then they're like, I guess put it somewhere here. Because a lot of times, I think even on Amazon, a lot of those are advertising that they hold a half a cord and they only hold a face cord. So a lot of times it's like you see them on Amazon, they advertise it to half a cord. So you're like, oh, I just need two, but you actually need three of them.
Interesting, yeah. It's funny the type of questions that you get, and you don't want to laugh in their face, but it's just kind of like a chuckle later on of what they ask, and then are they when you respond to these questions or to inform your customers of certain things, are they appreciative of the information that they're receiving, or they're just like, I don't really need to know this information, just give me your firewood and go?
Most of the time, if I try to like explain what a cord of wood is, they're confused and they're like, well, it's already here. So they just either get it or some people I've had, they're like, I don't need that much. Like, can you take some of it back? I'm like, I can take it back. But I'm not. Then they want to drop some prices. I'm like, I already loaded it and brought it here. So the price is going to be the same. I can't take any off. I already loaded it and brought it here. But
Hmm.
most of the time they're just like, okay, I'll take it. And they just take it.
Huh. Interesting. When you're delivering, um, when you are delivering your firewood, are you bringing it in the back of your truck or your trailer? And if it's a full cord, are you stacking it in your trailer or is it hand tossed?
Well, when I first started, my first delivery was about a half a mile down the road in the shopping cart, full cord. That was interesting.
Nice.
Then started using my mom's 15 passenger van. We had to stack it in there to get a quarter wood till I eventually got a trailer, which if I toss it, I can fit a whole quarter wood. I only stack it if the customer seems like we had a couple customers where they obviously have wheelchair ramps and whatnot. So we would just stack it because it helps them out. Most of the time where it's like a senior and I feel like okay, stack it for them. But other than that, unless they request to stack it, we don't stack it.
Gotcha. Right on. Cool, cool. Let's get into your splitter. Do you have experience with electric or gas splitter? And if so, if you have both, what would be your preference?
I've never used electric splitter. I've thought about it, getting like one of those super splitter ones and getting like electric one or something just to speed up process, but I've never tried it. The gas one I like. Uh, I don't know. I have only had the gas splitter, so I can only judge for that.
Gotcha. And what is your gas splitter now that you're using?
I forget the company, but it's a 27-ton tilt up log splitter. Slow as I'll get out, but it gets the firewood split for now.
It gets it done. I hear you. Is and it's one that will go back and forth, right?
Yeah, you can tilt it up and then get the heavier rounds and roll the heavier rounds up onto it and split them.
Gotcha. Yeah, cool. So like mine then, right on.
I believe
Um,
so, yes.
cool. Um, all right. So let's ask this: when you're selling firewood, is it always seasoned, or do you get? I mean, I guess because your customer base, they're burning for ambiance and not for heat. So is there is there any circumstances that you would burn non-seasoned wood?
I mean, I try to, obviously, you can't always keep dry wood. By November, I don't have dry wood. I got people complaining all the time. But most of the time, like this season, it's from the beginning till when it gets close to November for like the last couple months. I'll be like, okay, I have dry wood, but most of the time I just say it's green. If they call it like, is it dry? It's green because I'm getting them, cutting them, and I don't have the space to do a couple years ahead of myself. So most of the time, all my firewood is being sold green.
So if the wood is seasoned or non-seasoned, and you're sharing this information, are you using time as a tool to confirm that it's dry or not dry? Are you using moisture meter, or how are you confirming your wood's dryness?
I used to use a moisture meter, haven't gotten another one, but I used to use moisture meter where it would be like time where I heard you like you do like you tap it together and it like kind of sounds hollow or whatnot. So that I've done that. or I would split it, and you can, if you feel it, like if you split a log and you just put your finger on it, you can feel if there's a little bit of moisture in it or whatnot, or you can feel if it's bone dry. So sometimes I've done that too.
I hear you're saying. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, yeah, I feel that motion meters have a place, and it's good to have one as a tool. But time definitely is a good factor to utilize, especially when you have oak, when you know it's not going to be dry in a few months or a year. It would take years to season, so there's not even a point to touch it after you stack it for a while. Um,
Mhm.
gotcha. So in your on your channel, I see that you do stack wood. Is there a time and a place where you're piling wood? And then with your potential piles or stacks, are you covering your wood?
The only time I pile it is if I'm cutting and I just split it in a pile for a couple days, and then eventually I'll get to stacking it. But I do stack it. I used to cover it, but I couldn't figure out a method to keep any type of structure on it. We would always tend to get some high wind or something, it would blow off or something. So I just stopped covering it, just let the sun bleach it. I just don't cover it.
Gotcha. That makes sense. I think it all depends on your area and the amount of snow and or rain that you would get. And then I guess when is a factor in your area, so you don't want to have your
Yeah,
covers fly off like you said.
yeah.
Um,
It's in a big open field, so it gets a lot of sunlight and a lot of wind. So I do feel like it does dry.
that is nice having an open area where you get full wind and full sun. Gotcha. Or as a side hustle, are you selling wood all year round, or is it seasonal? Or if it's all year round, do you sell more in the fall, winter versus spring and summer?
Um, Selling wise, I sell more in the fall. Call wise, I get tons of calls in the winter. Even though I have it marked I'm closed, so many people call and they're like, "Do you know anybody has wood?" And I say, "Yeah, everybody that I know is no longer out of wood." Trying to get customers to order ahead of time is so hard. They when it's gone, then they all of a sudden want it, and it's your problem to get them wood, and they won't pay more if it's cold. They'll be like, they want to pay the same price. It's like, no, I'm freezing, it's snowing, and you want a cord of wood, it's going to be more, and you're paying more if you're getting it, but they won't want to do it.
Gotcha. It's good to stand your ground in terms of your firewood. And 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 and, and to hear your interesting story of seasonal sales. Yeah, I think a lot of I don't know, potentially. I mean, based on I mean, it it may depend on who you're selling to, but to sell either seasonally and then versus um, all year round. So Joshua, you mentioned that you had a roadside stand or firewood stand, or no?
I did at one point, it was on a friend of mine's property. And then we got a notice from the city saying it couldn't be there, so I had to remove it. I'm still hoping to find another location as of right now, but as of right now, it's at the end of my driveway.
And having it be at the end of your driveway, do you get good business there, or is it kind of hidden?
It's kind of hidden, but I mean, a lot of customers, when all of a sudden it disappeared, they were like, "Where'd it go?" And some of them knew I did firewood down the road, so then they just kind of blindly went down the road. And I've tried putting up signs, but the city, apparently you can't have signs. Like if they're up there for a certain amount of time to take them down, which doesn't make sense because I've seen other people's signs for months on end, and I put mine in for 2 weeks and the city takes it down. So I just got to figure out what I have to do.
That happened to me too. I paid someone to make like vinyl sticker lettering that said firewood and then an arrow on it, and then I made sandwich boards, and I put one. I put I made two, and I put one each um, at two locations near me with arrows, and on one main stretch, the sign was there for maybe a week, and then someone took it. Either the
Mhm.
city or someone stole it. But like you said, other signs are there for like weeks on end, and no problem. Like, do you need a permit to put up a sign on the side of a road? I don't think that that's necessary. But the signage is cool, but I don't know. Like, you have to be careful of the city having to be a side hustle, getting a business license, and I think I think I've done a good job of advertising my my firewood stand and not having it be a worry that the city will shut me down or want me to pay. Yeah, I don't know. I think at least in my area, or at least where I live, the city has more problems and issues to deal with than me selling $5 bundles at, at the roadside. I don't know. I don't know. When you are filling up your log splitter and or chainsaws, etc., your equipment, are we using ethanol free fuel, regular fuel, or premium fuel?
In the summertime, I tend to use just regular fuel because they're running all the time. In the winter, because I'm not running it as much, I'll tend to get the bottled gas and whatnot that doesn't have the ethanol because it's not running as much. So then if it does sit and it has a tank of gas, I don't have to worry about draining it. So in the winter, I tend to use that. It does help.
And that makes sense. I think it's good to be cognizant or aware of season and your use of the equipment and gas. I think that is a good um, way to go about it. So you're not breaking the bank, and you make sure that your small gas engines are maintained and gonna fire when you want to use them. Gotcha. When you do get tree service wood and it's in log form, and you wanna buck it down, are you measuring your logs to make sure they're at a certain length, or are you just kind of eyeing it?
I use a measuring stick. I actually cut mine to 17 inches. I use a measuring stick. When my neighbors help, they just kind of eyeball it, and I have to yell, I'm like, that's way too small or way too big, and they're like, it's fine. I'm like, you forget your fireplace can fit bigger logs, so they're used to cutting bigger logs. I'm like, you can't cut them that big with me. I'm like, you got to cut them smaller. And it's always good to like sometimes I'll use the measuring stick, but it's always good to keep going back to that measuring stick because sometimes you don't realize you're starting to go bigger, you're starting to go small, and you're like, oh, it's still the same. So it's always good to every once in a while pull out that measuring stick and make sure it is indeed what you want it to be.
Now you mentioned 17, and I think the standard length would be 16, and I'm curious why 17 is it only because of the fireboxes in your area, or why 17? I'm curious.
I did 17, so if so like as you're measuring, just kind of eyeballing it, if you do go a little shorter, it's not drastic shorter, it's still within the 16 inches. So it's not if you when you're just cutting, it's not shrinking too much. So it kind of puts a higher standard. So if you drop down a little bit, you're still good.
Interesting. I like your thought. I like your train of thought there. To think forward of what it's going to be later on. I don't think it would shrink that much, like 1 inch, if you're cutting it at 17, but at least to make sure that the customers are getting the wood that they're buying in terms of the
Yeah.
length, and size, right?
Yeah. I mean the average wood stove takes I think like 17 to like 18. So it should they should be able to take it. I haven't had complaints about it's too big, they can't fit it in there. So
Gotcha. All right, well, that's good. That's good. On that note, when you do get complaints about your firewood, what would be the main complaint, or maybe the oddest complaint that you have heard?
well, I guess it wasn't really a complaint. We had this one customer, we delivered it. He said he wanted the firewood stacked up by the house. So we stacked it up, probably 8 foot wide, about 4 foot high. And we're like, where do you want the rest? He's like, on the stack. And I'm like, it's already 4 foot high. He's like, you can just keep stacking up. It was a full cord of wood. So I stacked up a little higher. I'm like, I don't know where else to put this. So we just put it by the side of the yard. Well, he came home. He called me. He's like, why is all the wood over there? I'm like, you said find a spot to put it. He's like, no, I wanted it all up there. I'm like, all of it? He wanted it stacked to the ceiling. I said, no, there's no way I'm doing that. I said, if it falls on me, falls on you. I said, I'm not doing it. He's like, other people have done it. I said, I don't care who did it. I'm not. And my mom's like, I'm glad you said that because she's like, I'm not doing it. So he just said, I don't want the wood then. So we loaded the wood back up and gave it to somebody else. We loaded most of it. He took some of it, but he's like, I don't know who would stack it that high.
Wow.
Like
I
it had to be a 10-foot deck roof or something higher than a normal cord of wood. Like, no, I'm not stacking it that high. I would need a ladder anyway. There's no way I could just stack it up there.
yeah, I mean, I do stack my wood higher than and where higher than 4 feet and above my head because of space wise, and that's a lot of time spent up and down a ladder, right? And
Yes, it is.
yeah, and but and it's I don't know, like if they're paying extra for it to be stacked and extra to be stacked above like reaching height, right? That would demand more money. But your point of safety for you, and then for the customer later on, and then for the, I mean, that's a good point too. But the customer saying that now he doesn't want it because you didn't stack it as high as he wanted. I mean, yeah, I'm good with, yeah. Just say no thanks. I'll sell my wood elsewhere. It's just that that's sad. So then did you give the guy his money back?
I talked with a coworker who's done firewood with me. I'm like, so what do you think about this? And he's like, well, already drove 30 minutes to go to the guy. He's like, tell him if he only wants a certain amount of wood, we'll take the rest. Don't give him any money back because you already loaded it. You already spent the time literally wheelbarrowing it to the location, stacking it. And now we have to, and our wheelbarrow actually broke. So we had to go back 30 minutes and go grab another one and come back. So it was like, we're not giving you any money back. So, I mean, he was kind of chill about like, he wasn't demanding the money back. He just was like, oh, it would be nice if I could get some money back. And I'm like, well, I can't.
Yeah, I think a lot of us would agree with you. You already went there once, and they demanded something crazy, and um, yeah, that's interesting situation, huh? Odd. I mean, it is what it is in terms of selling firewood. You can't pick who you're. I mean, you can be choosy about who you sell to, but if it's a new customer, you don't know what they're gonna ask or demand or say. But usually people are fine, but you get the oddballs. I hear you. That's funny. Let's get into the chainsaws. What are you running right now?
I have a Husqvarna. I think it's a 455. That's the one I use right now.
And how long is your bar?
I believe it's a 20-inch.
And is that suiting your needs right now?
It does. I mean, a couple of the tree service logs are a little bit bigger, so you got to cut one side or cut the other side. Once in a while, I've had to use a maul and get a wedge and split into it just to split it apart so you can get that like inch center part. But most of the time, I've been able to cut the wood because we don't have massive trees around here. They're not that crazy big. The max you can get is like a 40-inch log, which is your normal rounds.
Gotcha. And if you had your ideal saw, what would be the saw that you would want to have in your hands?
I'm not really sure. I've heard of like different saws that like work great and whatnot, but I haven't had the experience to really know, like put your hand actually on it and actually feel it. So, I mean, this is the biggest saw I've run, so I'm not actually sure. I mean, it would be nice to get a better saw, but this is what I have for now.
I will maintain that the best saw is the saw that's in your hands and it's running. I don't care
Yes,
what brand, what bar you have, how many cc's. It was in your hands and it's cutting, and it's going to keep your family warm, or it's going to have brings ambiance to your backyard, a campfire, or it's going to bring food on the table because you're selling firewood, that is the best saw to have. I hear you're saying, buddy. I hear you.
Yes, as
So
long as it
is
runs,
that a,
it works.
go ahead, sorry, go ahead.
I said, as long as it runs, it works.
Amen, buddy. Amen. Is awesome, Joshua. Thank you, buddy, for your answers to my questions. Now's the time on the podcast that I give you the floor to share with us tips, tidbits, lessons learned, advice, anything that you feel is lacking that should be shared amongst the fiber community. Maybe something that you had not shared on your own channel, but here you go, man. It's all you. Go ahead.
I would probably, one of my main things is just wearing safety equipment. I've crushed 3 fingers and cut my hand once, all because not paying attention and not wearing safety equipment. So I highly recommend chainsaw chaps, gloves, goggles. They all help. ER room is not fun. So, that's pretty much my main thing, and just have fun and do it safely.
I think that's a good tip and reminder to all of us. It does not matter how long you've been cutting. It does not matter how like uh, big or burly or manly you are, whatever. To because mistakes do happen to all of us. We're not immune to um, accidents, and to be prepared, be alert, and to have the PPE, to have the chaps and gloves, or whatever else that you mentioned. Each time you're cutting, doesn't matter if you're cutting one piece, one time, or a whole log, a whole sack of logs. Wear protective gear. Yeah, good plug. I like it. Sold.
I've had plenty of close calls. Is not like I would not have a chainsaw trap, and like it would jump back and it gets pretty close to my leg. I'm like, nah, I'm gonna go put that on.
Yeah, stop what you're doing and put on the gear, or make sure if you're somewhere else that's your family's property, wherever else, that you that in your checklist that you bring all that safety equipment each
Yes.
time. Because it just takes one mistake, one slip, one cut, and you're in the hospital. And those chaps cost, I don't know, $50, $150, whatever, versus a several $100 bill from the ER, right?
Yeah.
Whew, crazy. I want to give you a chance too. I want to hear a little bit more about your YouTube channel. What you're talking about, what your content is, so people will go to your channel and check you out. Go ahead.
So a lot of other people they tend to just like film like portions of what they're doing. I try to film with the best that I can every moment, like pretty much a vlog. And I find firewood splitting and stuff just satisfying to watch. So stuff like that, I try to do longer videos. It may be boring to some people, but for me, I like watching longer content, not just a 15-minute video, sometimes getting to 35 or even a half hour or 45 minutes videos, because it's just satisfying. Just sometimes you get off work and you just watch it. I'll watch my own videos sometimes just hours on end, after I literally just came back from splitting firewood. But that's pretty much what I do, is just try to just enjoy what I'm doing and try to share that with you.
Awesome. That sounds like a good channel to watch and to subscribe to. And remind us the name of your channel, please, Joshua.
It is Glowing Firewood. You might have to look up Firewood, New Jersey, NJ.
Gotcha. I will leave the link in the description of this video. Please check out his channel and to subscribe and support his channel. Definitely some good content there to check out and watch. Cool. Well, Joshua, thank you for your time today. It was good to meet you and hear about your wood yard, how you cut, how you split, and sell your firewood. Thank you. I appreciate it. Go ahead and say goodbye.
Thanks, Travis. Congratulations on 1,000 subscribers.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Awesome, folks. Well, thank you for tuning in to this podcast series. If you want to be on the podcast, let me know and I'll get you on I have a list of people who want to be on the podcast, but every Sunday we'll have a new interview. Each one is different. Each one is interesting. I think they're pretty cool, for sure. So thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. Stay safe. Keep coming rock and roll. Cheers.